Is this a safe space? Can I say that I genuinely enjoyed Wuthering Heights, the movie? As someone who read the book, I genuinely enjoyed it. Is this a safe space to say that, or am I going to be persecuted in the comments? Okay. Please hear me out. Probably as most, like, sad teenage girls, the Wuthering Heights fairy came into my life, handed me the book, and said, hey, you might enjoy this gothic literature. Read it. I'm not kidding you when I say I do not know how I got the book, where the book has gone since. Probably read it when I was like 13, 14, I'm about to turn 32 in a few days. So it has been 20 years since I have read this book. I forgot a lot of it. So when I heard they were doing an adaptation, I was like, oh, I remember liking that book. I'll probably see the movie. I'll definitely want to do a reread. But yeah, these are the things I remember. Kathy, Heathcliff, the Moors, Kathy's ghost, thinking this is a weird love story, and getting a like creepy crawly feeling. That is legitimately what I remembered. And then that first trailer dropped and I was like, oh no. Is this adaptation going to be like too toxic? People come together, but it's fun and sexy and cool. And it's like, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, yes, they're like toxically in love and it's their downfall and everyone else is like downfall too. They are not good people. It's not cool, fun, sexy to be in a toxic relationship. I was really worried that's where the movie was going to go. I had seen some interviews with her and watched them because I was just curious about her adaptation, her take. I have not watched Saltburn. One of her interviews talks about how her question for the film was, is love worth dying for? And I'm going to keep coming back to that as I talk about, I think, the two main controversies of the book before I get into anything else. Or, not the book, the movie. Number one being Jacob Elordi's casting. As I said, it had been 20 years since I read the book. I did remember Heathcliff being not white, but I did not remember much else past that. So when Jacob Elordi was cast, I was like, you know, it's Jacob Elordi. He's like the hot actor, both physically. Okay, I'll say it. And also just like, you know, his name's a hot name right now. He's in a lot of movies and I think he's a genuinely good actor. In my reread though, and technically I re-listened to it, it is mentioned a lot. It is mentioned a lot that Heathcliff is a non-white person, described as Gypsy, Romani, Spanish, just not white. It is a central part of his story and his otherness, which is Heathcliff's whole thing. It is why he gets treated the way he's treated, and then in turn acts the way he acts. I do have the question of if we felt that just on movie Heathcliff being adopted and then physically abused by his adoptive father was enough otherness. Did we feel we were getting enough of that to then later justify his treatment of Isabella? In the books, right, as I said, Heathcliff is treated as the other because of his skin color and his adoptiveness and his social status, and even this like hot cold relationship that he has with Kathy, this toxic relationship that they have transcends into their young adulthood and is like an additional layer as to why he does the things that he does. If you're not aware of what happens in the book, Heathcliff and Isabella do get married, and it is kind of the way in the beginning that it's shown in the film, where Isabella becomes very infatuated. Heathcliff kind of takes it as an opportunity to give a good old FU to Edgar and Kathy and make Isabella a plaything, which is what kind of Kathy treats Heathcliff as. So again, you have this like cycle of abuse, torment happening. In the book, Isabella leaves Heathcliff. She escapes the abuse. It is physical abuse. It is obviously not what is shown in the film. She does write that letter to Nellie saying like, who did I marry? I married a monster. Who is this man? Blah, blah, blah. She escapes and does have a child which was Heathcliff's. Isabella eventually dies, and Heathcliff has to care for this child. It's like the whole second half of the book, the cycle kind of repeats itself. Anyway, I think maybe I feel this way because I read the book, so I have a lot more context and like examples to feed into what eventually happens. I am certainly not saying I like need to see more gruesome stuff on screen. That is not what I mean. I'm just kind of like pondering the like nosedive Isabella's character takes is kind of wild. We see her be infatuated at first sight with Heathcliff. I mean, he is like, I don't know, the only other man she's ever seen in her life. He's tall, attractive, handsome, he has money, and he has this cocky confidence about him. I think she played that very well. I think the actors played that very well. We see her mention it to Kathy, and Kathy gets like, oh, well, you know, this whole like fake nicety thing that Kathy does. We see Isabella stand up to Kathy for the first time and like stop being infatuated with Kathy and be infatuated with someone else. And she basically she does call Kathy a dog in a manger, and then in turn almost becomes that dog. The scenes between the swing set scene and then the dog collar scene, I thought we were going to get other scenes where Isabella comes in and you kind of see her start to unravel. I know we get the pin scene, and it kind of like is like, I have to make myself worse and inflict pain on myself to be able to take the pain to be with this man who I'm enamored with. Because of the question, is love worth dying for? It's obviously mirrored in the Kathy Heathcliff relationship, but I think this was a big opportunity to also answer that question, because we don't see what happens to Isabella. Heathcliff gets the news that, you know, Kathy's passing, and she just gets like whisked off, and it's like, okay, what happened? I think Emerald Fennel kind of opened the question to this relationship, and I'm very interested in Isabella Heathcliff and all of that in this movie version.
Hi, editing me. I need to add a piece of nuance to the Isabella conversation because I do want to say, like, I know that abusive relationships do not all work on the same timeline. Monday, things can be cool, and Tuesday, you're finding yourself in a situation you never thought you would find yourself in. Um, I totally get that. It's just like Emerald opens up a totally different conversation than what's being had in the book, where now it's sexual and it is implied that Isabella actually likes what's happening, but at the same time, she had to like degrade herself to get to the point where Heathcliff would like her. And I just think from where we see her at the beginning of the movie to the dog collar scene, there's not enough to show us her descent of sanity, or the opposite, where no, she actually finds that she's into this stuff and it's not abusive or whatever. And there just wasn't that.
One of Emerald Fennel's like interviews was, hey, we can make 1,000,000 adaptations of Wuthering Heights. We can make one every year, and you can put who you imagine Heathcliff to be. This is who I imagine Heathcliff to be. So maybe in my version, I would explore Isabella's character more. I don't know. With that quote in mind, it's also kind of crazy for her to say that because it's just mentioned so much. It is such an important part of his character. Part of me feels like they spent so much money on this movie that they, again, were just kind of needed something to make sure girlies were in the seats to buy tickets, and it was Jacob Elordi they chose. The like mixture of censoring some stuff but showing some stuff explicitly, like all the hanging stuff. I'm misremembering, but like I don't remember hearing about it in the books. Again, I could be just like forgetting that part, but I don't remember. On to the costumes and the scenery and everything. I love the costuming. I am not someone who needs the costumes to be like super historically accurate. Obviously, if she was like in jeans and a t-shirt, but we're still saying that I might have a different view with it. But as to me, as long as the costume is telling an extra added layer of story, I love it. I think so much lately we see so much groundedness in movies and shows that it is fun to have some fun. The world around us is so terrible. I would like some things to be fantastical. Her like organza, almost cellophane like nightgown that she wears on the first night of marriage to Edgar. Does it look a little silly? Yeah. But I believe it is supposed to be frilly, like she's a wrapped up little gift. We see Kathy's clothing become more high necked, more tight. Her hair is tighter. Her skin goes from like glowy and dewy to white when she is in Thrush Cross Grange, the hardest thing to say, versus the wildness of Wuthering Heights. Her room in Thrush Cross Grange is Margot Robbie's actual skin scanned to make wallpaper. In watching like the video where the set designer talks about they wanted it to be sexual, I got creepy crawly feeling. I got like I am giving a speech in front of 5,000 people and I find out I'm naked. That's what it felt like. It felt very exposed, not in a sexual way. For me. Again, I'd be interested to see if you guys felt that way. The sets were actually built in a sound stage, so those were like real rooms, everything. They said there was very little CGI used. I love that. I've definitely got onto like if a practical effect can be used, even if it looks a tiny bit silly, I'd kind of rather it over CGI. I think there's just like something about that I really enjoy. When it was raining, it was actually raining and it would just drain out onto the soundstage. They did a really good job of making the scenes what they're supposed to be in like an imaginative, feverish dream way. The music, I was definitely nervous when I heard Charlie XCX was going to be doing the music. I thought it fit in really nice. Unfortunately, I did see Wuthering Heights like 3 weeks after it came out, so the I think I'm gonna die in this house. Can't sing. What has become a meme at this point. So when I did hear it in the movie, I was like, I did think of the meme, like someone's cat not being fed at exactly 5 a.m. That's unfortunately what I thought of. The music itself is very good. I did listen to the album. I enjoyed the album. Wall of Sound, amazing song. I think we do leave with the question: is love worth dying for? My friends who I saw the film with, they had not read Wuthering Heights, so they were just kind of going in blind. I gave them like a quick synopsis. I was like, this is what the book is about, but I know the movie's not really going to follow this. And they came out kind of with that question of, yeah, it's tragic what happened to them, but they're not good people. Like, I technically don't really feel sorry for them because of what they inflicted upon themselves, each other, the others around, which is why I kind of say I think we should have gotten like another example of that theme to really tie it up. I think all the actors did a really good job at playing their role. From childhood to Margot Robbie, we saw that Kathy was a petulant child who loved to play the victim and be hot and cold and love these games. We got that immediately. Heathcliff kind of being standoffish but protective, but also had like this temper. We got it. Nellie being an unreliable narrator, even though she wasn't a narrator in the movie, and it takes a long time to maybe realize that in the book. We see that immediately. It's immediately exposed that, you know, she technically, or her dad is like a lord, doesn't mean she's a lady, and she's Kathy's companion, and that immediately gets pushed aside when Heathcliff comes in and kind of holds this resentment. We get that immediately. Isabella and Edgar being very like highbrow, prim and proper people. We understand that. Isabella being naive, we get that, and Edgar being a little bit of the fool and just nice, we also immediately get. I think they played like the top level of their characters very well. and you still have this relationship with Kathy and Heathcliff where again you're like, you're not good, but I do feel for you and what you're going through, because although I certainly have not gone through anything on this, but this like, oh my god, this infatuation that is literally like altering your brain. You can't think past it, and this jealousy, but I'm not jealous, you're jealous, blah blah blah, and like is a common human thing that happens when you are very young, where in fact love feels like life or death. Those are all very real human emotions that I felt were done well throughout this movie. I think it was a good adaptation, and that's what it is just an adaptation. And this might be controversial, but I also wish that him and Kathy never do actually hook up. I think the constant tension, maybe like some moments, almost like second base, I don't know what else to call it, but not actually having sex, like I think would have really driven this, like, how mad can someone go? I think I would have actually enjoyed the tension more in this storytelling than I usually do in a book. Like when a book really drags it out, I go, come on, just kiss already. Oh my god. This, I feel like, again, if we're really going with this, people are crazy, mad, infatuated, life, death, I think that would have helped. Again, it's a modern adaptation. I think people expect a certain thing from movies. I just think in my version that is what I would have liked to see. I can understand though if you are upset. Like if Wuthering Heights is one of your favorite books and you are so excited to get like a modern adaptation of it, and I mean just like modern day, um to have it kind of not be that book accurate, I can understand being upset at it. I heard when they were going to remake Twilight, it was at one point going to be like vampires on jet skis. If they had gone with that, I would have rioted. It would have been crazy, okay? So I totally understand not being happy with an adaptation, and that's okay. You were allowed to not like a piece of art, to say this thing was bad and you didn't enjoy it and you're disappointed. That's totally fine. Wuthering Heights, to me, I really enjoyed the book. Is it one of my favorites? In a literary sense, yes, but as like a feeling sense, no. So I was okay with the liberties, besides what I spoken about, that were taken with the book. I think they had to do something to make sure people were going to see a classic if they're going to spend $80 million on it. I kind of think that's just the way Hollywood works. I don't think it's right, but I kind of think that's what's happening. Like I said, I haven't seen other of Emerald Fennell's work, so I'm not sure. Though I've heard the stuff about Saltburn, so I think this is just kind of like her style of work. So, what did you think of Wuthering Heights? I can't wait to see the Odyssey, because I feel like I'm actually going to be way more heated over the Odyssey in the summer than I am over this Wuthering Heights one, but we will see. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.